So, if you ever wondered who it was that sponsored Pat and Greta Gregory, then it was me. You're looking at him right now. Now, that was just an accident of fate. I don't deserve any credit for that. Now, at that time, Pat was very, very seriously looking for a way to get out of the corporate rut. He was already into various things which we discussed in the past, ways of making money, ways to get out. And he was in absolutely deadly earnest. I wasn't. The business for me was fun. I found it a bit of an ego trip to get out there and stand in front of groups of people and draw circles and be a big shot. I enjoy the association I had with other people in the business, but serious, absolutely no. For me, it was just an interesting sideline, rather like being in a club, not really to be taken very seriously. And after all, really, it was the job. That was the really important thing after all, wasn't it? Well, I carried on fiddling with the business here and there. In those days, meetings really did take place in scout huts. They really did take place in pub back rooms, and they really did take place in drill halls. And in those days, if we got 15 or 20 people, we were absolutely over the moon. And we'd never have dreamed that in these years to go in the future, that every month would be around 150 prestigious hotels just to have the basic things like planned trainings being held. Never mind the vast number of huge seminar venues. We see a few hundred people here, but around the UK there are venues taking thousands of people every single month. But that was just not even a vision on the horizon then. And whatever there was there seemed to be subject always to change. Whatever we did, it got to be changed. And we groped our way forward trying to find the way that things would work best. And it was really very, very confusing. Very much in sharp contrast, of course, to where we are today, where we have systems that are built on a solid foundation of success. They're constant, they're reliable, and they're trustworthy. We can invest in them. Well, despite all of that, things actually did move on. I went silver. Well, not really, because it wasn't me, it was Pat and Greta that went silver. And I very quickly had to get out and scrape up some side volume so that I too would go silver. Now, just a little while later, I found that things were going okay. I was a direct with one direct leg. That was Pat and Greta Gregory. I had a silver leg, and there was another one around 12% and just hovering there. Well, that got me into a comfort zone. At that level, I could be in the same club as the others. I could associate with a small handful of directs that were at that time and be the same as them. But the only deep-seated ambition and goal in life that I had was the burning desire to be the director of a big company, and that is all I was interested in. That, as I saw it then, was getting towards the pinnacle of success, just the one below the MD, and that was there for taking, and I would take that too. Now, we learn in this business that what we think about most of the time is what we're going to be. Whatever we think about, we will become what we think about most of the time. Now, that's true. It's a universal, immutable law of achievement and success. The trouble is, it's neutral. It responds to negative input and it responds to positive input. And if we put in negative input, it brings about that which we don't want. And we then say, oh, I just knew that was going to happen. I've been worrying about it for months and months and months, and now it's happened. Ever had that? Yes. Well, there it is. But on the other hand, it also responds positively. If you think positively, you will get the reactions that you want in a positive way. So, be very, very careful what you think. Be very careful what thoughts you allow in your mind, because if you allow the wrong ones to get in there, what they're going to be are the seeds of failure tomorrow and not the seeds of success that could be. So, catch yourself. Only speak positive and replace any nasties with plus. I was obsessed with my goal. I ate, slept, drank, breathed it continually, every single day, day in, day out. It was everything to me because it was my reason for living. I wanted that goal about as much as Pat wanted to build this business. You see, in those days, I had no idea what I had my hands on. I didn't appreciate the deep and solid values and ethics that this business teaches. I didn't understand how life has to be in balance to achieve happiness. I didn't understand about the values and benefits of helping other people. And I certainly didn't understand issues like the domain of security, the achievement of peace of mind, and growing as a person. Didn't understand those at all. And back then, if I am honest with you, if I had to think about it now and think about how I was then, if I'd even thought that, I would have put it down as so much trite garbage by this steely-eyed hero. That's the way that I was, because I was far more interested in power and status than me, to be quite honest. Do you know what status really is? Just by the by. It's buying things you don't need with money you don't have to impress people that you don't like. That's what it really is. Now, in those days, I had three, but the most important things in my life were my values. Number one value, the company. Number two, the company. Number three, the company. You see where my priorities lay. And it's strange, but a man who's on his deathbed is never, ever going to say, I wish I'd spent more time at work. It's never going to happen. You see, the fact of the matter is this: life isn't a practice session. This is it now. You can't rerun the past. You've got to build this business now to get the lifestyle you want and the time you want, because you won't get it in the future. It won't happen. You've got to do it now. Now, as I got caught more and more in the corporate scene, I did less and less in the business, and I was working 70, 80 hours a week and driving 80,000 miles a year and traveling around the world too, and generally having a lot of fun playing big wheel. You have to understand, in those days, the hit rate in the business from plans was maybe 10 or, if you were lucky, 15%. And those who got in got out pretty quick because there was no real system to help and sustain them. I didn't know how to develop leaders. All I knew was corporate methods, which clearly didn't work in this business. And I was pretty much the only person who was drawing circles in those days. And so it was really like a job, another job, drawing circles. Hadn't managed to get real duplication to happen. Now, consequently, as I pulled back more and more, the groups I had began to crumble away. Except Pat's, of course, which has done pretty well. And that's because he's a true leader. Anyway. And in contrast, you see, with today, it's incredible when you think what Pat and Jerry, or Pat and Greta and Jerry and Mandy have achieved, what they've done to put it at our disposal today. We now have a system which anyone can use, anywhere, anytime, to develop themselves into an individual who can command 2, 3, 4, I don't know what times salary they earn today in just a very few short years. And the tremendous thing about the system is that it works. It works. Every single month, look in the newsline, direct after direct after direct, just like shelling peas. Look at the bigger pin levels last year and the year before. You know, it works. The system is constant. It is never up and it's never down. We can be. We're people. It has no likes and no dislikes. We do. It treats everybody with exactly the same respect. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, year on year. It's constant. It's reliable. It's substantial. It covers the nation. And through special interfaces, it can reach out around the globe. Never has an off day, we might do. And it obeys equally all of those who learn to use it. It can't differentiate whether a diamond's using it at that moment, or a 6% or a 3%, or a brand new person who's no percent. It's going to serve any master with complete equanimity. Isn't that fantastic to have that opportunity? Don't you think so? Now you can... Can you begin now to really comprehend the awesome power of this system that our leaders have given 10 years of their lives in the creating, so that all of us, any one of us in the future, if we choose to, can create a lifestyle, wealth, security, peace of mind, personal development, a whole list of benefits that accrue to us as a consequence of just literally plugging into that success system. Well, I didn't quit the business, I didn't resign, I just let it wither away unnoticed. After all, it was irrelevant to me. I even ignored several reminders from the Amway Corporation to say, hey, you should renew. I didn't bother, just didn't bother. See, perhaps I didn't see how big the incomes in this country could really be. Perhaps it was lack of vision, a lack of belief, or simply maybe a very severe and terminal case almost of the blinkers. Well, you could say, have I lost out? No, not really. See, I've gained something quite extraordinary. I've got a wife and partner that I put above anything else in life, anything else in the world. We have 2 beautiful children in whom we delight, and I still have a business that enables us to generate unlimited income without an ongoing commitment to time. And not only that, we're also personally plugged into a world authority on how to build and develop it into an incredible business in the form of Pat and Greta Gregory. Have I lost out? No, absolutely not. I've gained hand over fist. Now, I kept in touch with Pat quite frequently in those days by phone or over coffee while I was spending my life building a company from a few broken down operations that I was ashamed of to a company with a turnover over 100 million, employing 2,500 staff at peak, and controlled a repairs and maintenance budget of millions of pounds, which Nancy has already alluded to when she wanted to open her shops. And for several years, many to be responsible for the construction program that produced 9 hotels, restaurants, fast food operations, retail stores, amusement arcades, and some of the biggest fuel forecourts in Europe. I got my goal. I became a director. My face was in the Times and a write-up to go with it. Wowee. And I received much of what most people want in those days, money, power, influence. But I also got Nancy. And meeting her has been the single most important thing that has ever happened in my entire life. She found an empty, twisted up robot of a man, but she must have seen something in me, somewhere. She provided me with the motivation to change the direction that I was going in. Now, we had a lot of what most people want. We were stuck in a luxury trap, is the truth. We had an impressive home. We had free private healthcare. We had free 2-week holidays anywhere in Europe at all. We had half-price long-haul holidays as well. There was travel for both of us to places like Bahamas and Thailand and other exotic places, courtesy of big fuel companies of whom we were big clients. We had a free prestige car, free petrol, free tax, free insurance, expense accounts, and invitations from suppliers to glittering London functions to mix with the glitterati when new shows opened or there was a book launch or whatever, racing at Ascot. Dinners in exotic hotels, looking out across the nighttime London from the Royal Garden rooftop restaurant, Kensington. We even had a quarter share in a 4-place airplane. And even then I was getting an income that was many times the average way back in those days before the benefits I just mentioned. And oh my, you say, why didn't you want that? What was wrong with it? Well, was I happy? No. Did I have any friends? No, none. Till Nancy found me. Free? No, not at all. Peace of mind? None. Security? Yes, but only for today, only now. And that was the price that I paid for those things. So many benefits made it very, very hard to reject the things I had to do. And I can still remember now adding my support to the boss's view we should sell adult magazines in our retail stores. It made me sick to my gut. And I was disgusted with myself for letting my principles become stifled just to keep in with the peer group. And the books I had in those days were books like The Corporate Infighter's Handbook. You know, the sort of book that teaches you how to stab people in the back while you still look to be their friend. Well, I needed those books because I played power politics to win. I was beginning to see that as time went by, I was going to find it harder, though, to maintain that position. See, I was the axe man in the company. I was a corporate killer, operations director. The MD was far too nice a guy to do nasty things, so it always fell to me. See, I was very popular. But little by little, planning power victory lost their fascination. I got tired of being constantly in battle. Victories became hollow. The razor-sharp cutting edge maybe dulled and maybe wasn't quite the same, and the killer instinct maybe not so keen anymore. Or maybe I was just becoming bored with the absolute and utter futility of boardroom politics. And it's true, isn't it, that rising stars, they reach their apogee and they very seldom hit the sun. They fall backwards, sideways, backwards and out. And that realization came almost too late for me. And Nancy and I used to sit together. We stared into the fire. We drank wine together. We talked about one day, how we'd pull out of that stressed out world. No more eating bottles of indigestion pills. No more waking up soaked with sweat and nightmares, screaming in the night. Week in, week out. How it's going to be different. No more stress and pressure. One day, we were going to take the kids around Europe in an old bus. We'd go and live in France or Cornwall or Scotland or somewhere. And what we'd do, we'd run as far from the M25 as we could and the boardroom and the capital city, just as quick as we possibly could. And then we'd sniff the roses, feel the peace of the pine forest, and get our hands in some soil before it's too late, and enjoy a bit of life. And really, I knew in my heart, I suppose, that if I carried on at that frenetic pace, I wouldn't have Nancy or the kids, and I'd lose out totally on everything I really loved and believed in. So I was getting pretty frustrated and angry. The Times couldn't help then, because what it would do is put me back where I was before. And whatever I did, I was going to be a pawn in someone else's game, even if it was the king, because their hand would move me and put me where they wanted me to be as they played the game in their best interest. I'd eventually found out that the vision I had 20 years before of life at the pinnacle was wrong. I'd spent 20 years struggling, fighting, and kicking my way up to the top of that ladder to get to the penultimate ledge, to find that all the things I'd really believed in weren't true. They were empty, they were shallow, isolated, glittering. It wasn't real. Didn't want it in the end. That's the realization after 20 years' work. And yes, there are good companies out there. Of course there are. Good people too. But they've got shareholders, and they want a return, don't they? And their biggest vote is withdrawal of investment, so you've got to get it right. And of course, a private company, that isn't welfare, they have to pay the bills. They've got to make a profit, so wherever you go, it's really about money. You could say we've arrived at the point Pat and Greta were when we showed them the business all that time before. Now it was us. We were looking. And you know, even to this day, I don't know why we never really thought about this business. We looked at all kinds of things. And finally, through a feat of absolute incredible lunacy, as Nancy said, we decided to buy a post office mini-market thing. Crazy. And the idea spurred us on because, of course, we'd seen Jaguars and BMWs and Mercedes-Benzes parked in the car parks of these places, belonging to the owners when we visited. Do you believe that? Do you see them? No. Well, that's what we thought. And we couldn't wait to get in to get ours. It's crazy. And Nancy ran it, as you know, and, well, Nancy's told you about that. And one Sunday morning, the local dairy owner came in and said to me, Mr. Lear, I wonder whether you would ever consider selling this shop. And I said, well, I haven't really thought about it. I mean, we've put a lot of work in here, and we've got a very good business running, and Nancy's very excited about it, and she really wouldn't want to leave it at all. I just can't think we'd ever want to sell it. Why? Well, he said, I'm very keen to buy it. We've got a point in time in our business now. We've got money, we want to invest it, and this is just exactly what we need. Would you please think about it? I said, well, I couldn't promise anything, but, I'll certainly think. And the door closed, and I said, yippee! It was a miracle. I tell you what, the cash came out of his bank, it went in our bank, even before the light was on the paper. That was it. It's gone. And you see, we already owned a property in Scotland in those days, so we had another idea. What we'd do, we'd sell our home, we'd resign, move to Scotland, and then we'd be free. We'd dabble in this and dabble in that, and it'd be wonderful. And that's what we did. And do you know, once we made the decision, the divine hand came down, and no sooner had the for sale board gone up than somebody said, "I'd like to buy your house." Couldn't believe it. Grabbed the money quick. Now, as soon as we got the money for the house, got rid of what the debts we had, we didn't have any more debts. That was it. So then we decided all we had to do then was to leave the company. And I went to meet the MD after a couple of weeks up here in Scotland, sat down with him for a briefing, or a debriefing, I suppose, on what had gone on while I was away. And I can remember now saying to him that I wanted to pull out. Why? He was on a diet. There was a Perrier water bottle, out with a Perrier quick drink. What's the matter? What's wrong? I don't know, what have I done? I said, it's nothing to do with you. It's just, it isn't what we want to do any longer. And you know, he said, well, what you should do is, you've got to go to the London Business School next week and spend a week away. Why don't you spend some time with the knighted chairman and his barons, and that way you'll see what you're giving up. Well, so I said, well, it won't change my mind, but if that's what you want, then I'll go, but that's what I'm going to do. Well, we had another appointment a week later to see if I'd recovered my senses, and unfortunately I hadn't. And we had a conversation, and, well, I'd be leaving. Had to give 6 months' notice. Now, do you believe I was so loyal to the company that he said, oh, please stay to the end of the financial year, please? And I said, okay. So I gave him 2 months of my life. Imagine. Do you think the company would have done that in reverse? No. But it's mad, isn't it? That's what happened. Well, there we go. Let's talk about something exciting.